So good morning, everybody. Come on up into standing, whether you're at home or here. And as you come up into standing, if you're on the floor, take your time and roll yourself up and just notice how your roll up feels. Just going to stand as well today. And then just notice as you land on your feet, notice where you're looking. First thing I want you to notice today. And today's practice will be a focus on diagonals. So as you stand, come back to your feet and feel those four-car tires, base of the big toe, little toe, inner and outer blade of the heel. And notice the weight and see if you can find any subtle differences. And if you notice the slightest bit of more weight, say for example in one heel or one ball of the foot, just tune into your opposite shoulder and see what's happening. So there could be a gamut of scenarios here. So for example, in my Soma, there's slightly more weight on my right heel, and I'm noticing that my left shoulder is rolled forward. So like there's a diagonal pattern through that. So if there was more weight on the ball of your foot, you might notice the same side shoulder is forward, the opposite shoulder could be slightly back. Just see if you can sense, and please put your hands on your body. If you go, oh, I can't sense just from my feet, you can put your hands on the front of your pelvis. And just notice, is one side of the pelvis rotated forward or shifted forward? And actually, let's do that. Put your hands on your pelvis. Come down low for those at home for a minute. And at the front of the pelvis. And if you shift your weight forward and roll that pelvis forward, notice what happens to your foot. And then let it come back and do the other side. So you're literally just turning your pelvis towards one side. And then come back to where you like to hang out and see if you can sense whether that's level and what happens in your feet. And then take your hands up to the front of your shoulders, just fingertips on the front of the shoulders, and play with that idea in your feet. So if you rock your weight into your right heel, is there a response in your ribs and shoulder girdle? And then come back to where you like to hang out and go the other way. So sometimes we need to create a little bit more extreme or contrast by moving more so the brain can sense, and then come back to where you like to hang out and see, is there any rotation through the ribs and the weight in the feet. And then you're going to take yourself for a walk, and it might be good to leave a fingertip on one shoulder and the opposite hand could be on the opposite pelvis. Sorry. Yeah, you know what I mean? Create a diagonal, hand on the pelvis, and just go for a little bit of a walk and try and walk at your natural pace once you get going. And just see how these two talk to each other. And what I mean by that is how easily does the shoulder roll back and forward. And sometimes it'll roll forward really easy as you step the foot, and sometimes it will not roll back or vice versa. And just pick up any information you can. And then you're going to swap diagonals. And as you swap diagonals, just notice what you notice. Sense what you sense. Can you feel a difference in your sides, in your diagonals? Yeah. And then slowly make your way back to your mat and lay down. Now, if you're comfortable laying with your legs long, then lay with your legs long. Of course, if your lower back is not comfy with your legs long, then bend your knees and plant your feet. And just notice, go for a diagonal awareness today. Start at one heel and notice the opposite heel, and is the weight even on the backs of the heels, or is one leg rolled out more than the other? And just notice what you've got to start with. And then pick a leg and draw your awareness up to the pelvis. Feel the weight on the back. You could even put your hands back on the front of the pelvis if you like. And maybe you get a sense with your hands on the front that there might be more weight on one side of the pelvis, and so it's sloshing, the bowl of water is sloshing the water a little bit to that side. And then tune into the opposite shoulder. And notice, is this pattern the same as what you found in standing, or is it different? Feel free to take a hand up onto the shoulder if you're not sure what's going on, to the shoulder girdle. And then take your awareness to the other leg. Feel the weight on the heel, the calf. Come to the pelvis and notice, if you think of your pelvis like a bowl of water, is it level in the horizontal plane, or is it slightly sloshed to one side? And if it is, or even if it's pretty level, just squeeze your glutes and contract your glutes quite firmly, and then just let them go and let them go and let them go and let them go. And see if that even changes it. Sometimes we can hold tension in our glute when we don't need it. So again, you could squeeze your glutes, glad wrapping them to the sacrum, and then just let them go. Yeah. And then notice the relationship from this side of the leg and pelvis to the opposite shoulder girdle. Notice where you're looking on the roof. And then bend up one knee at a time and plant your feet. And before we move on, just put your arms off your body and notice that relationship between your arms and your shoulder girdle. So if one shoulder girdle is sinking down into the floor more, notice how that transpires down the arm. And then you should notice what happens on the other side. Gently turning your head from side to side. And then come back to center. You can keep your hands off your body, or you might like to bring your hands onto your diaphragm. And take 4 or 5 soft belly diaphragmatic breaths. So really relaxed in the abdomen, allowing the ribs to expand into your hands as you breathe in. And let the exhale be really gentle and passive. Let the body breathe out. And every time you breathe in, feel like you're drawing your awareness deeper and deeper into your being. And as you exhale, soften a little more. And the next time you finish your exhale, let go of the diaphragmatic breath and notice where your body breathes. Notice the depth of the breath. And if you would like to dedicate this practice or to set an intention for your practice this morning, bring your hands to your heart space, holding your dedication and intention within. Atha Yoga Nushasanam. It is with great respect and infinite love for ourselves and all beings, acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet, the Wiradjuri people, that we now come to this practice. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So take all that information that you've collected in your walk and your scan, take a little snapshot of it, and then let it go. And bring your hands to your lower pelvis with your knees bent now, if you've still got them long. And little fingers are in your hip crease. And as you inhale and arch your back, notice which side of your pelvis you're dipping into. So feel how there can be a difference in the hip creases at the front and also the weight on the back of the pelvis. And then just melt your back. Starting to be warm Time for porridge, so you could think about warm honey drizzling off a spoon into your porridge. And pretty quickly, if you can work out which side you're dipping towards, so you could use your tailbone, which side is the tailbone moving towards, like a rudder on a boat, then let the back melt to neutral. And whichever side you're dipping towards, we're going to work on that diagonal first. So keep that hand. So if you're dipping to the left, keep the left hand on your pelvis and take your right fingertips and either touch them to the tip of your shoulder or to the front of the shoulder, or you could put them on the ribs to encourage the ribs to move. And then imagine a rope from your bottom hand to the hand on your ribs to your shoulder. And as you breathe in, start to arch your back on the diagonal. So press this shoulder blade, this diagonal shoulder back, as you tip into the pelvis. Notice the weight on your feet. Notice where your head wants to go. And when you need to breathe out, let your back melt on that diagonal. And then sink in the center and feel like you're tightening the ratchet strap or the brace across your body. So your ribs sink, your pelvis rolls towards that shoulder and the shoulder rolls towards it on a diagonal. Super, super slow. Ease out the diagonal rope and just let gravity take your shoulder towards the floor. And I really feel to relax this shoulder, I need to take my hand off my body at the end. So notice if you need to do that. Then no, diagonal. Yeah, diagonal. So if you're dipping into your right pelvis, you're on your left shoulder or your ribs. And ribs is probably easier, and just imagine the connection all the way to the shoulder. So we're going to do 3 on this side. So as you breathe in, consciously press the shoulder back so you can really feel that diagonal. It's like you're making a little bridge between that shoulder and your pelvis. And then let your back melt. Like pancake batter spreading into a hot pan. Then sink on your next exhale. So feel free to take, as many breaths as you need to do this. Doesn't need to be all in one breath. And try and see, can you just sink on this diagonal? Like you're pulling the shoulder across your body to the opposite pelvis and you're tucking the pelvis towards that shoulder. Head will tip back and it might go on a bit of an angle, and slowly ease out. Switch everything off, which might mean hands off the body. And then one more time. Consciously press the shoulder back, like you're trying to take your shoulder blade to the back pocket of the pelvis you're rolling towards. That diagonal back pocket. And then let your back go. Let it melt. The next time you exhale, sink in the center and feel like you've got a TheraBand that's pulling tight between the shoulder and opposite pelvis. Let your head tip back and it might go to one side. And then slowly ease it out. Relax your shoulders. Hands off the body. And notice your imprint. Then swap diagonals. So the opposite hand goes into the hip crease, the side you weren't dipping towards, and the other hand will come diagonally to the ribs or maybe to the tip of the shoulder. So this is not your natural way of arching, so remember to make the movement smaller. Consciously think about sloshing the water towards this side of the pelvis. Consciously press the opposite shoulder blade back. Can the first side stay relaxed? That's often a bit of a trick. It wants to just push back as well. So try and leave that first shoulder girdle really relaxed. And then let your back go, let your back go, let your back go. As you exhale, sink, spiral that shoulder across the body towards the pelvis that's tucking up and under. And then slowly ease out the front. Try not to pull with the back of the body. switch off and just let gravity take the shoulder the rest of the way, and hands off the body. How's everyone going on their second side? Okay, does anyone need hands on? So you're going to do it 2 or maybe 3 more times. Maybe we do an extra one on this side. What is it that makes this the second side? And remember, it might be that you have to let that other diagonal stay relaxed so you can connect to this one. And the next time you take your hands off your body, pause, because I'm noticing something really interesting in here. Let me have a look what you guys are doing at home. Have a feel where your feet are. So a few of you in here, your feet, one foot is moved forward, just ever so slightly, so your heels aren't lined up. So just bring your knees into your chest. So can you feel that, Kate? Yeah.
I did it on the other side too.
And that's okay. Just probably meant your leg was moving with you. But just to be aware of that, and then just come back down and start with your feet level. And let's see what happens as you do 2 more on this second diagonal. And it may just be that you're using your feet to help you. And so as you use your feet, the position changes. Take your time. What can you notice? So it's not just about contracting this side. Remember to try and let the other side be really relaxed. And do that extra one on this side, making it as smooth as you possibly can. Okay. And then when you've completed, come back to center, have a little nod, just soften the base of the skull, just let your neck relax. And notice your imprint. You might even like to straighten your legs. Because sometimes a diagonal arch and flatten can make a huge difference to your imprint, or not. And then we'll bend up one knee at a time and plant your feet. Have an arch and flatten, and let's do straight, straight down the center. Think about the tip of your tailbone going straight down the center between both feet. Notice the arch. I want you to see which direction is easier now, the arch or the flatten. So let your back go and sink into your flatten, and then slowly come back to neutral. So who found it easier to arch today? Who found it easier to flatten today? It's pretty unanimous, actually. Okay, so that means your back's letting go and your front's not. And if you're not sure, hopefully you're happy to come along for the ride with this one. So let's continue to release across the front. So remember, do a little arch and notice if you were going to dip towards one side, which side would it be? Which is probably the first diagonal you did, maybe not. And let's continue with that diagonal. So if you were dipping towards your left pelvis, you're going to use your right arm and your left pelvis. If you dip to the right, it'll be left arm, right pelvis. So your spare hand, bring it across to your ribs. And if you can reach across towards the arm that you're going to be moving, do that. We're going to come into a flower, but we'll break it down a little bit. So as you inhale, let your back arch and just rock your knee out and press your shoulder girdle down, and imagine you're trying to tuck that shoulder blade across your back to the opposite back pocket, and then slowly let that melt just to neutral. And let's do that again. See if you could imagine the rope across your back is pulling that shoulder blade underneath you. Your arm might follow a little and begin to roll, and you're arching and you've tipped your knee out. And then just let your back melt, let it melt, let it melt. Take a breath in where you are, blessings. And as you exhale, sink in the center, roll the knees together, lift the little toe on this diagonal we're working, and roll your shoulder, but keep the back of the hand on the floor and just press the back of the hand into the floor. Your head tips back and it might go at an angle, and then slowly melt across your front and let your shoulder melt down. You do that again. When we keep the hand on the floor, it gets into the deeper pec muscle in the front. So breath in, preparing to move. As you exhale, sink. Roll your leg in, lift your little toe, and feel like you're pressing the back of the hand down and drawing the shoulder across to your pelvis like we just were before in our diagonal arch and flatten. And then super, super slow. Ease out the front, let the shoulder go, let your foot come back to 4-car tires. Notice your imprint. And then let's take it into a full flower, but on the diagonal, yeah? So just this diagonal. As you breathe in, arch your back, feel like you're tucking your shoulder blade underneath, let your arm roll with it, and tip your knee out. Your chin will soften to your chest and it might move to one side. Then let your back go. Take your time. Take your time. Pause. On the next exhale, sink in the center, spiraling that shoulder across and let your arm follow, squeezing your knees, lifting the little toe. And then so slowly, ease that rope out across the front. Let gravity take the shoulder back. Let your head come to center and just have a little nod. One more time. Inhale, really focus on tucking the shoulder blade under. Let the arm follow as you roll the leg out. Chin softens. Then melt your back. Take your time. Pause when your hand faces the ceiling. Then the next time you exhale, slump. Roll that arm in. Feel the shoulder blade moving to the opposite pelvis. It's tucked. Knee squeeze. Little toe lifts. And melt out. Check that your neck is relaxed at the end. Little nod. Notice what you've got. Just check that your feet have gone back to 4-car tires and you're not still on the inner blade. And then let's swap diagonals. So today, rather than continuing on one diagonal, we'll just keep balancing as we go along. So again, we're going to take our time on this second diagonal. First of all, arch your back and just tip the leg out. And also notice, what does the first side want to do here? And slowly let your back melt. And let your leg come back in. Do that again. Inhale and arch. Let the leg tip out. And feel like you're tucking your shoulder blade under you, like you're trying to drag it across your back to this opposite back pocket of your jeans. And then let your back melt. Let it melt. Let it melt. Come back to 4-car tires on both legs. Have a little nod. Then the next time you breathe in, prepare to move. And as you exhale, slump. Roll the leg in, lift the little toe, spiral the arm, or actually just the shoulder. Keep the back of the hand down. Spiral the shoulder across your body and press the back of the hand into the mat a little more, or the floor. And then super, super slow. Ease off that rope. Let gravity take your shoulder down. Check that you're back to 4-car tires on your feet. And again, breath in, preparing, slumping, rolling the knee in, lifting the toe, spiral the shoulder across, press the hand down. I said back of hand, but you might even have your palm down, your little finger down. It doesn't matter, just press it down. And notice that your head is tipped back and probably on an angle. And then ease that out. So is this second diagonal as easy to do? No. So let's do that one more time, that breakdown. Yeah. So as you inhale, tip the knee out, We're putting these two little versions together. Press the shoulder blade back, but just focus on the shoulder blade. Then let your back melt. The next time you exhale, slump. Keep the hand on the floor so you don't roll the arm. Tip the knee and lift the little toe. Let the shoulder move across your body. Head will tip back and probably on an angle, and ease that out. Now we'll put it together as the whole flow and let the arm move. So as you inhale, arch, tip this knee out, tuck the shoulder blade under and let the arm follow. So you end up pressing your thumb down and spiraling the arm up. If that's not comfortable for your shoulder, remember you don't need to do that. You could go back to the version we were doing a moment ago. And then let your back melt. Sink your ribs. Spiral the shoulder across as you squeeze your knees and lift your little toe. Head tips back. Slowly melt. Take your time with your melt. You can take as many breaths as you need. Just check that your neck's back in center. In the center, have a little nod. And do maybe even 2 or 3 more on that diagonal. And if it's not as smooth or as clear, make the movement smaller and think about making it slow, smooth. Take your time. And when you come back to center, pause and feel that your feet are grounded 4-car tires, the weight on your pelvis, the weight on your arms, before you do the next version and next repetition, I should say, and have a little nod to release the back of the neck. Now with that last 2 that you have to do, if you're now feeling like, actually, I'm pretty even both sides, you could do both legs, both arms, but still think about the diagonals. So either stay on the second diagonal, or if you're doing both, think about the shoulder blades gliding underneath to the opposite back pockets. As you slump, think about as you lift the little toes and squeeze the knees, that both shoulders are rolling across, creating a crisscross or a cross on your chest. And then melt out of it. And then when you finish, you might feel like you need to bring your knees into your chest. Please do so if you need to. Or otherwise, just stay in the constructive rest with your knees bent and your feet planted, or even slide your legs along and notice what your imprint's like now. How now? Diagonal practice is really powerful. And then frog leg your legs up. And let's have a feel of this movement, and then we'll come back to it. So this is a form of walking on your back. So we'll start with your pelvis. So put your hands on the front of your pelvis and feel that bowl of water. And slosh the water towards one side. And you've possibly gone to the first diagonal, maybe not, just notice. And as you slosh the water towards that side, can you then just pick up the heel on that side? So if you've sloshed to the left, you're picking up the left foot. Slosh to the right, picking up the right foot. So don't slosh so far that you're unable to pick up the foot. And then put the foot down and let the pelvis just roll back to completely level. And do that again. Tip the bowl of water towards that first diagonal or the side you're going to and lift the foot. If it's hard to lift the foot, you could just lift the heel and lower and let your pelvis roll back. One more time. And then whichever side foot you were just lifting, pick up the diagonal hand. I'm curious, did you all go to your first side or not necessarily? Yep. Yep. Okay. And of course, when you've got lovely scoliosis in your spine, your brain does all sorts of different things because it goes, well, this is my easier upper back, this is my harder lower back. Yeah. So as you pick up your hand, we're going to do a scapular sling, but I want you to notice what happens in your pelvis as you do it. So as you roll your ribs towards the side, away from your arm, you're going to reach up to the ceiling. What happens in your pelvis? Did the water slosh a little bit or not? Just notice. And do that 3 times. And if you're feeling, oh yeah, this water's sloshing across in my pelvis, as you reach your hand up to the ceiling, could you lift your heel or your foot? If it didn't happen naturally, put your spare hand back on the front of the pelvis. As you roll your ribs and reach to the ceiling, slosh the water a little bit towards that side of the pelvis, opposite, and lift the heel. And notice as you hold, can you hold for a moment, that we've just shortened the rope on the front. Yeah? And lengthen the rope on the back. And then bring your hand back down. How'd everyone go with that? Yeah? So it's not a big movement. Let's do it one more time so I can see. So roll your ribs like a barrel and reach your hand straight up to the ceiling. And then you lift your foot just a tiny bit. Nice. And slowly come back down. So we did the easier side for a reason. So now as we come to the second side, your brain's had a little bit of practice. Yeah. So we'll start, maybe put the hand down first and just practice with your hands on the front of your pelvis. And you'll tip the bowl of water towards. Now watch, often what happens is it's too much of a tip. So go back a bit, Kate, if you can, not so much. So I'm going to give you another image here. So with your hands on the front of your pelvis, imagine you've got a little ball bearing. Remember those little games we used to play where we had a ball bearing, you had to get it into the holes? And you've got a hole under each hand. Yeah. And I just want you to gently tip the pelvis towards this second side. So that ball bearing is not going to roll off, but it's going to stop under your hand. And then pick up your foot. Put the foot down, let the pelvis roll back. Because when we do this movement, ideally there's not an arch in your back. So make it small. Slosh, lift. Foot back down, back to level. And as you go back to level, watch that you're just sinking your pelvis down. Do it a couple more times. Yeah, feel the difference? It's just a habit of overworking the back. So I've got a good view of you there. Everyone going okay? You happy? Good. And then once you put this foot down, pick up the opposite hand. So you roll your ribs away from your hand that's up in the air, like a barrel, and you reach your hand towards the ceiling. See? And then just let it come back down. And if you wanted to bring your foot in fairly quickly, you can, but just notice that as you roll, you're not going too far into your side. Oh, last weekend. Right, we can have a chat about that. And can you coordinate it? Could you almost do it at the same time, which is what happens when you walk freely? There's a challenge. So you roll your ribs as you tip your pelvis and lift. Put your foot down, ribs roll back. Once you get used to the sequencing of this movement, maybe it can become a little more fluid. And then pause. Bring the first hand back up and let's do a little bit on both sides. So you choose, roll your ribs to one side, reach that hand, tip the pelvis just a little. Think about the ball bearing idea, lifting the opposite foot, slowly bring it down, swap sides. Now, if you were to bend your elbows and put your elbows on the floor and roll your shoulder girdle and your ribs, it's like walking, yeah? Or running. Yes, don't worry about that one, but you can imagine you're doing it. And then pause when you put your foot back down. And again, if you want to bring your knees into your chest, please do. So we'll come back to that after we've released the back a little more and see if it makes it easier for you. And then when you're ready, you're going to roll through your spine, come up into sitting, and come over onto your belly. And just turn your head to one side. And just notice which way you want to turn your head. I'm going to flip around because I want to go this way. And let's have the arm in a Sphinx position. And just check that your feet are hip width apart and parallel. And again, establish those ropes from the tip of this shoulder blade to your opposite back pocket. I'm going to start just moving the upper body and the shoulder blade. So if you've got long arms, you might be able to take the hand that you're not looking at and bring it behind you and find the tip of your shoulder blade with your thumb or your knuckles or your fingers. It might just help you to sense what we're doing here. Doesn't matter if you can't reach though. Remember to watch you having created tension in your neck. And so if there is, pick up your head and just move it slightly back to the midline. On your breath in, press down through your forearm. So you can leave your forearm on the mat, on the ground. And lift your chest and glide your shoulder blade across your back. It's not going to be a big movement towards your back pocket. So we're leaving the legs down. And you let your finger, or if you're touching, give a little bit of resistance. And then slowly melt your chest down, your shoulder blade down. Switch off. Don't use the second arm if it's not comfortable, but if it enhances the pose, you can have your fingers on the tip of the shoulder blade. Coming up on the in-breath, drawing the shoulder blade across your back, not too far. You don't want your ribs to rotate. You can look to the floor, remember, if that's better for your neck, and slowly melt. Then let that arm stay down now, and we're going to add the full pose. So we'll do one with the arm in this position. Remember, you can slide your hand up and down if your shoulder's not completely happy. And as you inhale, you lift your chest, feel your shoulder blade glide over your ribs, reach and lift the opposite long leg. Top of the knee, top of the foot faces the floor. Pelvis stays level. Super slow, melt your back and come out of the pose. Let everything go, let your legs relax, switch everything off. So you could keep your arm in the Sphinx position or straighten your elbow. So your arms out in a T. And so you might even like to press down before we come up. Press down with the arm, press down with both feet. Check that your feet and your knees are pointing to the floor. Then release. As you breathe in, start to glide the shoulder blade over your back as you lift your chest. Your hand will follow. You reach your leg, but remember, don't lift too high. Just have the top of the knee and the top of the foot facing the floor. Looks good at home. Super, super slow. Let your back lengthen to lower you back down and completely switch off. Nice work. One more, either with your elbow bent or your arm in a T. So you choose. Press down to contract the front if you like first. Then let that go. Breathing in, drawing the shoulder blade across your back. Nice. Love that your ribs aren't rotating as much anymore because you've got that freedom to move your shoulder blade. And then super slow, let your back lengthen to lower you down. Nice. Now the arm that you have, on the way that you're looking and you have that arm out, say it's your right arm, could you slide your knee up, same side knee up towards it? So if I've got my right arm up, I've got my right knee up. Yep. And then stack your hands with that hand on top and rest your forehead onto your hands. So we're still working on this diagonal. From the arm, you're just moving to the long leg. So check that the top of the long leg, top of the knee and the top of the foot are pressing into the floor. Remember with this diagonal movement, it's not very big, particularly when we haven't done it for a while. So you press down through your elbows, press down through your inner thigh and your straight leg. Then let that melt. As the front lets go, you lift your chest and your head, your forehead and your hand are glued, and you lift your elbow. Super, super slow. Let the back lengthen you down. So this movement is very much about letting go of the front. So if you can't move very far, the front is holding. Be careful with, or be mindful that you can adjust the position of your leg if it's not comfortable. And on this hard floor, you might even need to wiggle yourselves over so your knee's still on your mat. Press down, release. Breathe into a soft belly, lifting your elbow, head and hand. Super slow release down. This time, come up half as high, twice as slow. Press down, release. Lift, half as high, lower, twice as slow. Now the movement you were doing on your back, where you slosh the water from your pelvis, can you feel how at the moment the water is sloshed into the long leg side? Could you slosh the water towards the bent knee side as you pick up the shin and roll on your thigh? And then slowly bring that back. So this movement is also really important that you allow the long leg side waist and ribs to let go. You can go nice and slow, or if you're enjoying the movement and it's working for you, you can. So if you remember this one at home, so you literally tip your pelvis from, so for example, for Karen, you tip your pelvis from your left side to your right, slosh the water, and then maybe you pick up the right leg. How's everyone going in here? Haven't done this for a while, have we? Yeah, because it was a good one to do when everyone said they were tight on their front. So before you go, think about sloshing the water this way. And then as you do that, that'll come up. And that's about this side being tight. Yeah? Yep. So just do as much as you can today. We need to come back to this one for a bit. Do you want me to help you, Susan? So you think about how the water's sloshed there. So if you rock your pelvis towards me, you might be able to lift your foot like that. And it's about this side letting go and then back down. Okay? Doesn't have to be a big move, but after a while it becomes a bigger move. Feel good today? Yeah, it's looking good. You're changing lots, hey? Yeah. Yeah. How you guys going? Okay. You getting anything? Yeah. So and not enough slosh, mate. So if you slosh your pelvis more this way, is that better? And that's about getting and releasing here. Yep. So if it feels good, you can do more. But if it's still, there's restriction, don't force it. And then pause. Come back to center. Straight legs. Sorry, I can't put my hands on you guys at home. You have to really think about sloshing the water over before you try and move your pelvis. You can do that with your legs straight or your knees bent. And then let's come to the second diagonal. So starting with your arm out in Sphinx, turning your head to that side, or remember if it's not comfortable, you could always look at the floor and just put the other hand underneath your forehead or make a fist. Play with the position of your elbow so your shoulder's comfy. If you've got the longer arms and you can reach around, then maybe find the tip of the shoulder blade if that's comfortable. And the first two, I want you to breathe in and lift the chest and glide the shoulder blade. Resist with your thumb if you've taken the hand behind. And then super slow, let the back muscles go, let the shoulder blade muscles go. Lower yourself down, switch off. You might find that it's a little harder to reach around behind to the shoulder blade because we'll always turn our head to the tighter side of our neck. So if you're finding that, don't worry about the hand on the shoulder blade. Coming up on the in-breath, gliding the shoulder blade across. Super slow release. Then check that the tops of your feet and the tops of your knees are facing the floor. We'll do one with the arm in this position. So press down, release. Feel the front of the pelvis spread and stay level as you lift your chest, gliding your shoulder blade over your back and reaching and lifting the opposite leg. Super, super slow. Let the back lengthen to lower you down. Either stay with your arm like that if that's more supportive for your shoulder, or bring your arm out into a T. On your inhaling breath, you can press down, then release. Then you start to draw your shoulder blade over your back as you lift your chest. You can look to your thumb or look to the floor. We reach the opposite leg, but just watch you don't come too high. You want to keep the top of the knee and the foot facing the floor. And then super, super slow release. Switch off. One more, you can change back to Sphinx or keep your arm in the T. Pressing down first if that helps release the front. Slowly release. And switch off. So you're now going to bring your hands underneath your forehead with the arm that's out in the Sphinx or the T on top. And then you bend up that knee. So same knee as the arm you were just moving. So again, you might need to play. You might need to come bring your knee onto your mat, get the rest of your body off even. Or go on a bit of an angle. And play with the position of your leg. So remember this movement, I want it to be really small. Press down first and release. Tiny movement, lifting your elbow, head and hand. And then slow motion, let the back lengthen on the diagonal to lower you down. So you don't lift the leg, it's only the upper body. Press down, release. Think half as high, twice as slow. Switch off. Press down. Half as high, twice as slow. Head's in the center if you had it turned. Notice the pelvis and how at the moment the water in the bowl is sloshing to the straight leg. Think about rolling or sloshing the water to the bent knee side, and that's what allows you to lift your foot off the floor. It can become like a spiral for those who find this movement quite free. And so you might notice that your head wants to move. And if there's restriction, take your focus into the opposite side of the leg, to the leg, into your waist, into your ribs. And breathe into them. And if it feels good, do it longer. If it's a challenge, just do small movement, make it half as high, twice as slow. Yeah? It's all about letting go of the waist and the ribs and getting that idea of shifting. Good work. Nice to see that your body hasn't forgotten. Yeah. Easier on this diagonal, hey? Yeah. So good one to do at home on that side. So if you found one side was really quite restricted with this, really good one to play with at home towards the end of your practice. Yeah, and see how it's easier to shift your weight on this side? And it's possibly that you also know what you're doing now. Part of the second side being easy sometimes is that your brain actually knows what we're doing. And then when you're ready, come back to center. And rock your pelvis gently side to side, small movement, fast oscillation. Knees bent, all. How's it feel now? So one of the things I'm noticing when I look around when you do that now is you're getting a lot more movement up to your neck. Up to, getting wobble heads, which is what you want. When you're ready, come up onto your hands and knees. So we started last week and we're going to continue to get off the floor a little bit more as we move through winter and do a little bit more strengthening. And of course, we're going to work on a diagonal. So the first thing you might like to do as you come here is just do a cat and a cow. And again, if you like. And just notice how you feel after all this diagonal work. And then tune into your hands and your feet and your shins and just check that you're pressing really evenly on both hands, both feet. And you're going to pick up one hand. And if you can, you take it forward so that your palm faces in. And then curl into a tight ball and draw that elbow into your ribs. And then reach that hand out again. Now notice as you do this that you keep the weight really even through the 5 points of the hand on the floor. The thumb, the index, the middle, the little finger, and the inner and outer blade of your wrist. And curl. And now we're going to add the leg. So when we add the leg, you might need to make a little claw and put your fingers on the floor rather than lift the arm straight. And then pick up the opposite knee and touch the toes to the floor. See if I can get in camera totally. There you go. So that's your first version. Now I want you to then curl, dragging your knee and touching it with your hand. If you're doing the deeper version, you can go to the ribs. Otherwise, touch your hand and your knee, and my foot is still on the floor. Then slide that leg back, touch your toes, or of course, the deeper version is to lift the foot without tipping your pelvis, and then curl. So that's why you might have your foot on the floor and you're touching even knee on the floor as you come through, and then go back. So I'm going and doing the gentler version because I'm really making sure I don't lose contact in my hand and foot on the hand that is grounded. So it's fine to keep the foot on the floor. And then pause and sink back into child, or do a cat-cow. If you need to get off your wrist, come into a child, or even roll up if that's not great for your knees. You could come into a high kneel and circle your wrists or be in child. And those who are in child, still think about your diagonals. Let's do a whole body alternate nostril breathing. So breathe in through the right hand, through the whole right side of the body, and exhale through the left. And inhale through the left, and exhale through the right. Deliberately mixed it up. Doesn't matter if you went the traditional way, and this time go inhale through the left, exhale through the right, inhale through the right, exhale through the left. And then roll yourself back up onto your hands and knees. So we're going on to the second diagonal. So engage Mula Bandha, make sure there's a little bit of tone in the pelvic floor, and take the hand up first, and just notice as you take the second hand up, can you keep the weight even on the hand that's still on the floor? And curl into a tight ball, or even just touch your hand to your opposite leg and take it out. And so initially it might just be that movement, taking your hand out, touching it to your opposite leg without moving your pelvis or your spine. Then the next level will be to take the opposite leg back, but keep the toes on the floor, and you could make a little, can't really see, you're making a little tripod with your hand. And then you'll curl in and touch your hand and knee, keeping your foot on the floor is the gentler version. Those of you who know you can take your foot off the floor, just make sure there's no, well, you're keeping, I should say the positive, you're keeping your pelvis fine, keeping it level. Nice work. Work on your diagonals. Don't lose contact through that hand. So the great thing, once you've done all the somatic connections on a diagonal, when you go to strengthen, the neural pathways are flowing a little easier. And then when you're ready, sink back to child or high kneel and release your wrists. Whatever you need. And if you're in child, enjoy. You might come back to a full round of alternate nostril breathing. And then we're going to roll up into standing. Stay there for a minute. And as you roll up into standing, when you arrive on your feet, notice where you're looking. First thing. Such simple little, well, not necessarily simple, little movements on the floor can make such a big difference. Notice the weight on your feet. Anyone else feeling more centered on their four-car tires? And then tune into your rotation. So hands on the front of the pelvis, hands on the front of the shoulder girdles. Notice how it feels. We're going to do 2 more integration things on the floor, but I thought it was a good time to come up. And then just take yourself for a walk, and you might put a hand on a diagonal shoulder and notice what you've got. And I don't want you to do that for too long because I want you to get your arms down and feel the nice movement from your shoulder girdles. But maybe initially just start different. And if you can remember, it's always hard to remember, but notice how easily the shoulder is moving forward and back. Nice. How easy are they talking to each other? Looks good. And then come back to the mat. And as you come down, we're going to go back into that walking on your back with your knees bent and then finish in a wash rag. But this will be really curious and interesting for you to see if releasing the back of the body makes this movement easier, yeah, particularly for the movement through the shoulders and the ribs. So if you're okay to have both palms facing each other, both hands up, you roll your ribs to one side and reach that hand straight up to the ceiling. Notice that the water might have already sloshed towards the opposite or diagonal pelvis, and you lift the foot and then put them both down. And it may even now become a smoother movement. Just keep your chin soft, particularly if there's a big movement through your arms. And you can go fast or you can go slow. So you're walking on the floor. And if you liked the version where you actually bent your elbows, so then that might help you focus a bit more on your ribs and shoulder moving. Is it easier? Yeah. Yeah, so that just means for you that releasing your lower back has made it easier to slosh your pelvis. Yeah, so you all find so many things that could be. And then when you're ready, plant both feet. Arms are out in that softy. Now, before you just flow into your wash rag, which I know a lot of you know well, think about the diagonals in this. So put the ropes on front and back. So crossing across the front from the shoulder tips or the front of the shoulders to the front of the pelvis and across the back. And so if you want to come with me, if you want the guidance, if you tipped your pelvis to the left, you roll and shorten the front diagonal as the left shoulder rolls in and moves across towards that top hip. And then you roll the right shoulder back and you've shortened that diagonal, right shoulder to left pelvis on the back of the body. And you've lengthened it on the front. And then you swap. So as you roll the right shoulder down and the pelvis tips to the right, head turns to the left, you're shortening the diagonal right shoulder, front of left hip, and you're shortening it back of left shoulder, back of right pelvis. And off you go, but just see if you can get a sense of letting your shoulder blade glide underneath you on the arm that rolls up, shortening that diagonal, and feeling the shoulder girdle gliding across on the arm that rolls down. Did you ever think there was diagonals in this sequence? And then just let all that go and just enjoy the movement. Knowing that your brain now understands there's diagonals in this. And then prepare yourself for Yoga Nidra. So Yoga Nidra, as you know, means yogic sleep. So if anyone in here wants to be a lizard and needs to move more, like their feet in the sun, head in the shade, feel free. We can shut that door if you like. At home, make sure you're really warm and comfortable. Yeah, nice. Is anyone? I've got some extra blankets in. Do you need one? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was cool this morning, so I got some out of the car. Does anyone need a bolster that doesn't have one? No, you're all good. Do you want one? Yeah. Yeah, do it. You're welcome. Yeah, it's cool over here. You all right? You're welcome. Do you want one? Susan, would you like one? Anne, do you want one? I've got one. You're right. And as you settle down, do you want to tuck in or arms in? You could even shut this, hey? Start to become aware of the noises outside of your room. Yeah, that looks good. Happy? Yes, is off. And see if you can move your awareness from sound to sound. Letting the awareness move further and further away. Letting go of this. And start to become aware of any noises within the room. Bringing your awareness closer to your body as you become aware of any noises within the room. Then bring all of your awareness to the noises within your body. Your heartbeat, your pulse. Let your awareness settle into the noises within the body. Letting go of this. Now it is time to make a resolve or a sankalpa. And that's something that you've forgotten about your true self. And you state it in a way that it already is. I am. With feeling and awareness, allow it to permeate deeper and deeper into your being as you repeat it 3 times. Letting go of this. And now it is time to take your awareness around the physical body. As I mention the parts of the body, feel, sense, and release that which is named, bringing all of your awareness to the thumb of the right hand, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger. The palm of the right hand, the back of the right hand, your right wrist, lower arm, elbow, the right upper arm, the right shoulder and armpit, right collarbone, shoulder blade, the right side of your chest, your left abdomen, left side of the back, left hip, left thigh, your left knee and kneecap, the left shin and calf, the left ankle and heel, the sole of the left foot, top of the left foot, your left big toe, second, third, fourth, fifth. Feel, sense, and release the whole of your left leg and your right arm. Then bring all of your focus to the left hand thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, the palm of the hand, back of the hand, the left wrist, left lower arm, elbow, the left upper arm, your left shoulder, left armpit, collarbone, shoulder blade, the whole left side of your chest, the right side of the abdomen, the right side of the lower back, the right pelvis, thigh, knee and kneecap, your shin, calf, ankle, heel, sole of the right foot, top of the foot, the right big toe, second, third, fourth, fifth. Feel, sense, and release the whole of the left arm, the whole of the right leg. Bring your awareness to the back of the heels, calves, behind both knees, right side of the buttock, left side of the buttock, the whole of the pelvis, all of the organs of the pelvis, all of the organs of your abdomen, the whole of the lower back, your diaphragm, mid-back, both shoulder blades, all of the ribs, breastbone, collarbones, shoulder blades, all of the organs of your chest, all of the organs of the neck, the muscles on the front of the neck, sides, back. Release the base of the skull. Release the whole of your spine, tip of the tailbone to base of skull. The scalp, skull, brain. Your right temple and ear, left temple and ear, the whole forehead, right eyebrow, left eyebrow, the space between the eyebrows, the whole of the right eye, left eye, behind both eyes, your whole nose, right cheek and jaw, left cheek and jaw, lips, tongue, teeth. Feel the back teeth separate. Feel, sense, and release the whole body, whole body, whole body. Notice the body breathing. Resist any temptation to change the breath. Rather, notice the body breathing. And as you watch the body breathe in, mentally label the breath 17. As you watch the body breathe out, 17. As you watch the body breathe in, 16. Out, 16. And continue to label the breath backwards towards 1. The mind wanders off and you lose count. Go back to 17 and begin again. Letting go of this. And keeping your awareness at the blank screen of the mind, behind your eyes, behind your forehead. Witness these sensations. Witness the sensation of heaviness. Heaviness. Letting go of this. And witness the sensation of lightness. Lightness. Letting go of this. Keeping the awareness, the blank screen of the mind, behind the eyes, behind the forehead. As I mention these images, feel, sense, maybe even see in the mind's eye that which is named. The flame of a burning candle. A burning candle flame. The sun rising over the mountains. The sun rising. Kookaburra is laughing. Kookaburra is laughing. Rain gently falling on the river. Rain gently falling on the river. A rainbow. A rainbow. The full moon rising over the ocean. Full moon rising. And the waves rolling into a deserted beach. The gentle waves rolling in. The endless waves rolling in. Letting go of this and keeping your awareness at the blank screen of the mind. Now it is time to repeat your resolve, your sankalpa. I am. With feeling and awareness, repeat it 3 times, sending it deeper and deeper into your being. Letting go of this. Start to become aware of the imprint of your body on the floor in your room. Begin to deepen the breath and draw the breath from the core of the earth. Bring it to your navel and let it spread like the rays of a sun into every single cell in your body. Keep breathing in this manner as you gently begin to move your body. You might start moving your fingers and your toes. Maybe you need to bring your knees into your chest or stretch your hands over your head. And as you gently wake the body, become aware of the noises outside of the room. And when you're ready, roll to your side and pause there, feeling the weight of the body grounding you. And gently make your way up into a seated pose. And you could either come up into a cross-legged, or remember, if you're comfortable in Vajrasana, come to Vajrasana. And let's bring the hands straight into Anjali Mudra at the heart space today. And just notice that you're on the middle of your sit bones and you're allowing the orb of your pelvis to sit under the orb of your ribs and the orb of the head. And press the palms gently into one another. As you breathe in, draw your breath from the earth and bring it to your heart space. And as you exhale, send your breath deeply into her, back into the earth. Inhaling from the core of the earth, draw your breath to your heart space. You might like to add Mula Bandha and Khichari Mudra as you hold the breath at the heart. Then release the bandha in the tongue and exhale deeper and deeper into your spine. One more time, breathing in from the earth. Engage Mula Bandha and Khichari Mudra. And as you exhale, you decide, centering into your spines or grounding into the earth. Let's seal this practice with 3 Oms. Take a moment if you wish to dedicate this love. And then we'll rub the palms together. Taking a breath in as you open your hands wide. It is with great respect and infinite love that we now conclude this practice. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I honor that place in you where light, love, and truth dwell. For when you rest in that place in you and I dwell in that place in me, we are one. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you. You all looked pretty relaxed there today in your little